Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the SlabStox Market Report, brought to you by 1:37 p.m. and Card Talk. My name is Lou Janu. I am joined, as always, by Aaron Nowak of SlabStox. We're going to go through the November market report. Aaron's team always works hard on this. I got a chance to read it over the weekend. This time I got ahead of it, which was good. So
look at you.
Just doing a little work. So, Aaron, why don't you give people a little update? Tell them how you've been, what's going on. Wisconsin, a lot of things changing for you. So talk about it a little bit.
I've been in an interesting spot. Some teams good, some teams bad. Wisconsin getting a new coach is great for college football, but the Packers haven't been great. The Brewers are looking worse by the day, and we go from there. Bucks are doing pretty well, so it's good to see.
But one of the best prospects in baseball for the Brewers.
That's true. Jackson Chourio, man. I hope we see him this year. He'd be like kind of that first prospect, I feel like, since like Soto coming in around 18, 19 years old or 19 years old. So be fun to see. I don't know if they're going to do it. Brewers always make the bad decisions, so we'll see.
Well, they're bad, so I would think they give him, they give him a little bit of burn this year.
I hope so. But we just trade for Jesse Winker of all people, so.
Yikes. We had that guy, Jesse Winker, is one of those guys who was a prospect for like 4 years too long. And then he came up and was a good player and it was like, I don't know. He took too long to come up. That's how my brain works.
He's hit like 340 at Miller Park, though, like 10 home runs or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm kind of hopeful that he comes in and gets that mojo going again.
Interesting. Yeah. That's one of the we'll get into the report after this, but one of the funny parts about baseball analytics now is every single player who signs to every single team, you can find like a positive stat to spin it for the fans. Like Jose Abreu objectively had a pretty down year this year. There was some stat that came out that he had like the third highest exit velo in baseball and like to a certain part of the park where he's going to crush it in Houston. And I was like, oh, MVP, Jose Abreu, no big deal. Not even worried about it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Right. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's get into it. Jake, can you pull it up on the screen for me? Thank you. So as always, November 2022. If you want to read the full report, I highly recommend heading to 1:37pm.com. It'll be in the description of this video or this podcast if you're listening on audio. Aaron, is there any specific place where you would like to start?
Yeah, it's a pretty dense report, so I agree with what Lou said. Make sure to take the time to read it if you want to learn a lot. But there's 5 different takes in this report, as always. A couple different ones in here we're going to highlight will be the World Cup frenzy and also the buyback program from Topps. I know that Lou and Ryan and Tyler here on Card Talk discussed a bit and what the buyback MVP program is, but we go a little bit deeper into the data behind it and the card sales between before the program announcement, after the program announcement, and how many cards have been turned in and stuff like that. But we'll start with the World Cup, and then we'll go from there.
All right.
So I don't know, Lou, how much you've been watching, but I've been absolutely glued to the TV for the past 2 weeks now. I've probably watched an insane amount of hours of it and everything, and it's been a great time. And 2 months ago, I don't know if you remember, Lou, we did like a pretty big look at the World Cup, talking about what might happen when it comes in November and how we can expect sales to happen, supply to come up for sale, all this different stuff. I think a lot of that stuff has rung true here in November. The expectation was that a lot of people who maybe are not like super into soccer card collecting, but had some soccer cards because the World Cup was coming.
It just got disconnected. There? I don't know. Hang on. Cut. Jay. Cut. I don't know what I did. I'm gonna bring it back though.
Nice, Lou.
It's back. Chill. Don't freak out.
I'll try to pick it up.
Yeah, just pick it up from craziness.
So, of course, with the World Cup, craziness has ensued both on the pitch, at the actual tournament. There's been some wild results in these matches, but in the market as well. And a lot of what we talked about in the August report when we sat here a couple months ago, kind of forecasting what might happen come November is kind of playing out. So you've got, on one hand, tons of big performances from maybe players that weren't as bought and sold. Let's say players that aren't named, Mbappe, Haaland, Messi, Ronaldo, and Pulisic. And then you've also got players that aren't doing as well, and there's serious drops happening because there is so much supply hitting the market at one time, because a lot of maybe the casual soccer card collectors or just people who are buying soccer because the World Cup was coming are selling them as they planned, even if losses are being taken. But there's a few different things I want to look at here and talk about some different performances and what we've been seeing in terms of if there is a hot market, what happens to these cards. So first one, loser, I got it up here. It is that big performance short-term increase. So the 3 cards on the screen here all are like in under 1 week trends, either like 1 day, 4 days, maybe like 10 days at the most with the I think the Kudus is like a 10-day increase. But yeah, Cody Gakpo has scored a goal in each of the group stage matches that he played in for the Netherlands. Did not score against the USA, but had a good game. And his Prism rookie auto that just released here in November as well went from like $125 $200 in like the matter of 3 days after he scored his third goal. Kudus had a 2-goal performance for Ghana, and his card went from like $30 to $100. The Obsidian rookie, number 195. And then Salim Al-Dosari, he's plays for Saudi Arabia. He actually scored the game-winning goal in the upset against Argentina. His national landmarks that just released went from like $60 or $70 to $125 in 1 day, I think it was. So like we really are seeing a lot of these players that maybe people weren't buying for the World Cup increasing in price because of the performance that people are seeing actually on TV. And that's how the market should be, though. I mean, it kind of, for the last couple of years, and a lot of people talk about, but like, cards are increasing for various reasons because things were getting talked about a lot, or people are just spending more money in the card market. But now we are really seeing, performance-driven results here in the market. That is what we were expecting for the World Cup in particular.
Yeah, I think it's tough. It's one of those things where, and you know soccer better than me, so some of these guys, I'm not quite sure what their like long-term implications are on like a world stage from a club level or whatever. But you're right. Like it should be tied to results like this, and it should be tied to a big event like this. Like the World Cup happens, like we've been saying, over the years or whatever. Every 4 years this happens. It's very, very rare. These guys have these big breakout moments. It would make sense that these cards go up a lot. I also didn't know that there was I guess this is kind of like a downtown type of vibe, right? Is that what the country landmarks are, or national landmarks?
First set of that released in 2018, very short printed. Now they put them into this year's 2022 set as well, but they're like one per case. So they're not as short printed as they once were. But yeah, it is like a downtown, and they're amazing cards. So they look beautiful. And I like what you brought up. You're like, okay, I don't really know like the long-term outlook of these players, but like there's different instances to where it makes sense and it doesn't make sense. Like Cody Gakpo is going to move from PSV Eindhoven this winter, which is a small club in the Dutch league, not in like one of the major 5 leagues. He'll get a move to like Manchester United, or I don't know, maybe Real Madrid if they come knocking. But so he's going to have a move, and he's going to be one of the best Netherlands players, Dutch players for the next foreseeable future.
And he's 23 years old. Now that I'm looking
23, and I know he's not as young as Mbappe at the last World Cup when Mbappe broke out, but he's kind of like this breakout star in this tournament.
23 is young.
Like, it is young, but remember, Mbappe, unicorn type of deal, 18 years old, scoring 4 goals last World Cup and winning it. I'm not saying Gakpo's going to do that, but like buying that for $200 makes a lot more sense than buying the Al Dasari for 126. When now that Saudi Arabia's eliminated, he's probably not going to be talked about at all in the soccer card market for I don't know how long, maybe ever.
Yeah, I think that was part of my dilemma. We were talking off air before we started. Like, I wanted to get involved. I want some Team USA stuff. I want some Turner stuff. I want some Pulisic, obviously. There's a couple guys in this team that I actually really like. I like the way they play, so I'm going to be following a little bit more now. But it's a tough one, right? It's like I want to get involved, and I want to hold on to these, but it was pretty obvious to me that the U.S. wasn't going to get very far. If they got by the Netherlands, that was probably going to be the end. So I held off, thankfully, but it's interesting when you get into these moments here where you want to get these cards. You almost like, in my head, I was like, well, if I forget about it in 3 weeks, I never really wanted the card anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of where my head ended up landing. That's
like a perfect way to put it. Nate and I talk about that all the time, especially with auctions. If you like miss out on a card, or maybe you lose the card when you're actually bidding on the auction, it shows up 3 months from now, you might not even care by that point to where you're happy you didn't spend the money. Yep. But if in 3 weeks, 3 months, you're like, hey, I do still want that stuff, then maybe look at it, especially like what Lou's saying. I've come from the same place. Like if you're going to buy 2022 Prism World Cup cards, singles, that is, like I'd probably recommend, especially for guys that are still playing or now just recently eliminated, wait a couple of weeks, couple of months and see what the prices do after the World Cup is done into 2023. And also like from Lou's standpoint, like Matt Turner, like in 4 years, I mean, there's very good odds that Matt Turner is not the starting keeper on the team anymore. So
you think? See, I heard different.
No, Gabriel Slonina, he's got signed by Chelsea. He's like 19 years old and he plays for Chicago Fire, but he's moving to Chelsea this winter. He's probably going to go on loan. He'll be 23 by the next World Cup, and he's like, he'll be way better by that point.
Interesting. I heard that I was under the impression, this means nothing to this market report, but I was under the impression that this U.S. team was like a pretty solid nucleus of guys that are going to be together for a while.
Yeah, but Matt Turner is also a guy that kind of rose up and like a year ago, if you ask people, like no one would tell you that Matt Turner was going to start.
Yeah.
Zach Steffen was expected to start in the World Cup, didn't even make the roster. So like things change very quickly is the point here, to where if Slanina does play well on loan and does end up starting for Chelsea, like there's a very good situation or odds that he's going to be starting. And Matt Turner is going to be over 30 years old by then, and he might not be playing in a top league in Europe. So things change very fast, to the point that you should always think about that, because like the defensive line for USA also probably won't be starting come next World Cup. So just things to think about. All right, let's keep going. So then the other situation we're seeing here, or a scenario, is like a 2-year reward. Like there are instances that if you bought soccer cards 2 years ago, okay, 3 years ago, it's like 100% certain you're going to make money on the soccer cards. But even 2 years ago in 2020, you're kind of buying these players like Richarlison, expecting him to maybe make the Brazil squad, which I'd say 2 years ago, it really wasn't expected. I mean, he moved to Tottenham, has been playing really well, and obviously had the goal of the tournament so far for Brazil, and his kaboom has trended up nicely over the last 2 years. Same with some Messi cards too. Over the last year, not as much probably, but this national pride card, very cool card, saw a big increase after his goal against Mexico. And then even like Christian Pulisic, he bought some rare cards 2 years ago. I'm not talking like base PSA 10s, but 2016 select auto out of 49. And in 2 years, or 2.5 years, I think this one was, you see 299% increase. So if you were to hold for a couple of years, you really could see the reward. But give me one more scroll here, Lou, and then I'll get your final thoughts right here. Is the reality. I mean, the reality is this, is if your player is not playing well, scoring goals, and it's not rare cards, it's most likely not gaining value. Even Mbappe, who's had a heck of a tournament, and gaining value, I want to say, from 6 months to a year ago until now. You bought them 3 years ago, you're probably making money. You bought them in the last month, even Mbappe, and you could probably make money right now because he's playing so well. But even if you bought Mbappe 6 months ago, it's very hard to counteract, a down market with a little higher supply cards and make money on them in the last 6 months. So the Mbappe silver PSA 10 has decreased since June, and even Neymar, he's starting for Brazil actually today against South Korea. We'll see how he does, but he was injured for the last group stage match, maybe the last two. So his cards have been on the drop, and then same with Ronaldo, who for different reasons his cards have been dropping. But my point here is like, you kind of got these really nice looking outlier scenarios, which we have been covering daily on our SlabStox Instagram and SlabStox FC page, because it is fun to report on the excitement around the World Cup. But there's a lot of instances of cards dropping as well, which, we want to point out.
Yeah, and I think it's, these three guys, I would say, are probably the three guys that three of the 4 or 5 guys that people talked about the most.
And I think that's the point is right there, is that they're like, were some of the best like at the time. You buy these guys and they're, by the World Cup, it'll work out, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, and it's also like you're saying, like Ronaldo's a very specific situation. I feel like he's kind of in like this weird situation where his like whole career is spiraling, but he's making $200 million a year, so it's very confusing. But anyway, Neymar's another one where they've been struggling a little bit. I feel like they haven't been playing as well as people thought they would. Like, I don't know, and he's also getting a little bit older.
They definitely not been as dominant up to
this
point. But they also rotated the squad for their third group stage match. I mean, they lost the third group stage match, but they didn't even have their real starting lineup out there.
Yeah, it just speaks to, I think, a lot happens in 4 years, and the guys that you think are going to be your main stars heading into a World Cup, you're always going to have 2 or 3 surprises. I don't think anyone anticipated someone like an Mbappe popping up 4 years ago, and I'm sure 4 years from today there'll be somebody who we have no idea who they are right now who's going to be the star of the tournament. So
definitely, and I think that the good thing to think about is like, if you are in the mindset like, 2026 World Cup, like I want to start thinking about that right now. And this is probably where we'll end the World Cup discussion for this episode. But it's like, make sure thinking about it, maybe come the start of 2024 and not come the start or middle of 2025 or start of 2026. Because if you were involved in soccer cards in 2019 into 2020, you'd be seeing way greater benefit than if you were involved a year before the tournament or up until now.
Yes, like obviously the further ahead of it you are, the better, because you're going to be in a better position to be able to get stuff that you want. But a lot of things are going to change in that year and a half. And if you want to buy it something closer, you have to be mindful of what you're buying and like be honest with yourself about that. Because like you're saying I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Like with this Mbappe here, like if you bought this 6 months ago, you thought you were in a good spot, and you still probably might be, because I was just checking. I saw one go for 1,600, 1,500. So like as the tournament gets later, I anticipate that someone like an Mbappe would continue to grow, but you're opening yourself up to some pretty negative vibes if it doesn't go the way you're planning it to go when you buy it that close to the tournament.
Yeah, and I also think that you need to go into it with a plan. If you're like, I need to sell this by
Yeah.
the end of the World Cup, like probably maybe not the time to buy it if you buy it like 6 months ago,
Yeah.
because you gotta wait for stuff to mature too.
Yeah. Plan is the most important thing, because however way you slice it, you can find a way that you feel good about owning this card no matter what. Right now, you can find a way you feel bad about it no matter what,
Yeah.
So you really have to just decide what you want to do before you commit $1,300 to a sports card.
For sure. And then in the bottom line, in August, we said, opportunity might be in the air come the World Cup if there's a lot of supply in the market. And that's how I feel right now. And maybe buying soccer cards right now is dumb, but I'm trying to buy ones that maybe are at lower points because said player isn't performing super well in this tournament, because I love club football and club soccer. Like I watch it religiously, and other people do too. So if you're not interested in tracking soccer or soccer cards for the next 3 years, then probably don't buy the cards right now. But if you really love it like I do, it's worth a look for sure, because there's a lot of cards selling right now that probably not that much money is going into, and been able to find some pretty good deals, at least in my opinion. And obviously do your own research, as we say every time, and buy stuff you're passionate about. So just ignore that if you don't like soccer at all. But that's where I'm coming from.
I agree.
Ready for take two?
Take two.
So take two is all about the Topps MVP buyback program. Before jumping into the numbers, Lou, I just want to hear your thoughts really quick on when you saw this announcement. Like, what did you think right away?
I mean, it seems like a good idea to me. Like, it just seems like a good idea for keeping action in the card world and keeping people engaged in the thing. Because now, previous, you buy a box at a hobby shop for $250. You get 3 autographs out of that box that are pitchers you've never heard of. And I'm just being honest. You get pitchers that you've never heard of and a couple colored cards of 1 or 2 guys that you may know, and you may get close to that 250, but you're probably walking away down on that box. Now you have the opportunity where you pull a Aaron Judge MVP card out of 2022 Chrome. It's Chrome, right? Or
Yeah,
did I imagine that? Yeah, 22 Chrome, and you can bring that back into your shop and get some cash to buy something else with that. That's great. And that just keeps people invested and involved. And as we've always said, like the more reps you take, the better you get at it, the more you enjoy it. So anything that keeps people in the world, I think, is a big W.
I think this was a genius idea. Absolutely genius. When I heard about it, I was like, this is a home run. I mean, obviously it's baseball cards, but in general, it's a home run. I think that there's so much good with like finding ways, like you said, to keep people intrigued with it. That isn't just, oh, buy this card and sell this card. The more that things like this can happen, where it's like getting kind of gamifying the market in a way, to really encourage engagement, and not only engagement online, but also engagement in the shop. Like how many shop owners saw people in their store they'd never seen before because someone bought a Aaron Judge card that they wanted to go turn for credit. Like now there's, even with them posting the blog about this, where you can look at the shop locator, stuff like that has lived online. But for Topps to like put out like a 350 plus shops, you can type in your zip code and find a close shop to you. Like that's something that I don't think Topps has done before, especially this program in general. So very cool program. I hope to see this in different categories and in different ways going forward. Now, this specific program lasts until March 31st, 2023. So it's a pretty big window. I mean, it's like 3 months, not 3 months. It's a little bit more than that, 4 months, but it's very cool. So if you keep scrolling here, we wanted to check out and see like, how did this affect the market in different ways? So really quick, if you want to hear more information about the actual program, be sure to go on like SlabStox Instagram, or go on, just search Topps buyback program online, and you can see like how much you can redeem different cards for. But we're going to focus right now.
Can I say one quick thing?
Yeah.
I would love to know how they got to these valuations for these cards. It's just very funny to me that it's like 20, 40, 100. It just makes me laugh. I love it. I really, really think it's great. You said it a lot better than me. Like, it's such a good opportunity for Topps to like keep collectors invested. And in a world where you can't automatically make $1 million on every single thing you sell, like this is a goodwill gesture by Topps, and I appreciate it personally.
Especially working with shops to get new
Yeah.
shops involved maybe that haven't been able to do something like this. So what we're looking at right here is like before announcement and after announcement. So Topps made the announcement on November 23rd. And very soon after that, we posted and shared the news about it. But when Topps posted their announcement, it was kind of like, ooh, the MVP buyback program's here. Like, read about it on our website. And I think for a lot of people, maybe it's like, oh, this is cool, but what is this? For us, like the post isn't in here. It's linked in this article, but it really broke it down. Like, hey, if you bought this Aaron Judge right now for $10, you could go and exchange it for 40 or base for $2 and exchange it for 20. And I think that maybe that helped people really understand what was going on. And I think that you can kind of see it here in the numbers. So combined sales volume from November 1st, 2022 to November 22nd, 2022. Shout out to Card Ladder sales history for this data and information. Around 225 cards sold in a 3-week period. In a 1-week period after the announcement on November 23rd, over 1,000 cards sold. And this is of Aaron Judge and Paul Goldschmidt just from the 2022 Topps Chrome set. Over 1,000 sold in that 1-week period. So in 3 times less amount of time, over 5 times more cards sold, Lou.
Mm-hmm.
Is that crazy?
It is crazy. I'm just reading. I saw a court said like it's just interesting to see. Do they necessarily care about the sales volume? Do you think? I don't think they really care.
Topps or Fanatics, you say?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they do, but I think that this is what I'm saying is that, like, you know how you said, hey, it provides more engagement. Think of all the sellers who never would sell these cards if this announcement wasn't made. And think about the amount of people that wouldn't go and buy these cards and then go to their shops to turn them in. Like, it just kind of like covers the whole landscape, digital, in shop. And I don't think Topps maybe cares about like the secondary market sales of these cards. They don't at all because they just want them to get turned into the shops. But we
if anything, they prefer they weren't getting sold on eBay, I think.
yeah, but true. But we just see how that type of announcement and brings out this market. And my thought is to get people excited about this more, as Courtney pointed out, expand other sports like soccer. What if they did something around the World Cup? I know it's probably too late now, where people are then learning about more soccer players because you put out something for maybe a guy, I don't know, like Kai Havertz, just off the top of my head, that maybe the general American market doesn't know who he is, and then more people are looking for his cards, understanding the cards, I think, and really do a lot in many different ways for the hobby.
Yeah, like they did it for F1. Like you have a Mazepin card, you can return that and get a credit. Like that'd be kind of nice.
A lot of people had random Topps Chrome pulls.
Yeah, I was also wanted to point out, and I think this is something that Topps/Fanatics/whoever's running their business will get better at over time. And this is the first example of that. You said when they put up the blog post, it was kind of just like, yeah, like this sounds interesting, but there's not a lot of information on it. It doesn't seem that actionable to collectors. Something I think that they will continue to get better at, and I think the hobby in general will be more responsive to, is like official announcements from these companies and doing it in a way that's like digestible for the day-to-day consumer. Because I feel like up until now, the hobby has had this goes back to like the age issue in the hobby, I think, where everything is very old school and like, hey, go read this blog post. That's not as like sustainable to me, or not sustainable, but like not as engaging and helpful to me as like a basic Instagram post does.
I have to say, blog post is probably a poor way to point it out. Now, the post itself on Instagram, it could have had more information like we shared, but the website they built for this, because they did build a specific URL for this, it's very well built out. It's got a 3-step action, like how it works. It gives you all the different pricing. You can search the locator for the different shops, and it has like a 10 different interactive like FAQ thing. And then it has a full list of every card you can actually turn in, because people are probably wondering, Logo Refractor, does it count? Cosmic, does it count? Sepia, Refractor, all these different things, does it count? And
they did a good job then.
Yeah, no, but you're right. Like social media wise, it's a different story. But either way, very cool to see. And then as we can see here, not only did the sales volume increase, but like this specific card, there's many examples of this, of the different parallels. But this refractor of Aaron Judge, it's like $10 before the announcement. After the announcement, now it's like $30 card, which means that if you buy for $30, you go to your shop, you kind of get $10 for free. If you're spending on cards, obviously, but that's a 200% increase in like a week.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then if you scroll down here a little bit more, we got real results from shops. This was Brewtown Trading here in Greenfield, Wisconsin. I actually talked to the shop manager, Rory, and they got 70 cards in about a week, I think, for about $2,000 in store credit. And we asked him, what he thought about it. Was it positive for collectors? And he kind of echoed the same things we did by actually hearing from the people turning the cards that like, hey, it just keeps the journey going. It's a overall huge positive for everyone involved. So super excited to see that. And then if you scroll down, there's a couple more shops. RBI Crew 7 posted on Instagram that they issued $3,200 in store credit in like the first few days, which is huge. That's so many different cards. Louisville Card Shop in Kentucky did something similar there. Lots of cards. And then LI Sports Cards actually in New York, Alberston, New York, Long Island Sports Cards got some cards in as well. So pretty cool to see. Lou, my question for you is, what do you think happens to all these cards that get turned into the shop?
I was literally just going to say that. I wonder what they're doing with them. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. They're probably more than likely going to be just stowed away and we'll never see them again because in reality, a Paul Goldschmidt green refractor doesn't really have a whole ton of long-term value, I think, in 2022 Topps Chrome. But regardless, I think the most important thing here is, and it's what Brewtown said, right? It's like, collectors love turning 5 base cards into $100 in store credit. Like $100 in store credit at a hobby shop can do a lot of damage. Like I've seen it happen in Ryan's shop. I've seen it happen in real time in Ryan's shop. A kid came in, bought something for $5, flipped it into $20, bought something that $20, flipped that into $40, blah, 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 blah. So it's just great. I really think it's a fantastic program. I really do.
Yep, I agree. All right, dope. That's awesome. So I'm glad that everyone's kind of enjoying it. It's good to see. Next thing, we won't be able to spend too long on this one.
Jay.
What's up, Jay?
I don't typically make an appearance in the SlabStox thing, but I have 2 questions that we've gotten asked a couple times on Card Talk in the DM. So I'm curious what your thoughts are, Aaron. On these cards, any chance you think the Topps gets these cards autoed as like a and puts them in a 2023 set?
That's a good
idea.
idea.
And also, what do you think are going to be the long-term, like, do you think these cards, since so many of them are getting returned back in, that the populations of the ones that are still out there will be rare enough that they'll actually have some value as the cards themselves?
2 super good questions. Thanks for asking them and thanks for popping in, Jay. First, I think it'd be very cool if they got a certain number of them autographed. Obviously, they couldn't get like every base card autoed, but let's say they like got like some of the best ones. Like the people are turning in the golds out of 50. Like what if those did get hard signed and included in like a Topps archives? That's a perfect set to put it into, to where normally Topps archives, they do have like the re-signed cards that kind of get brought back and then they number them and reinsert them. That'd be an awesome product to like put these into. And then as for, do I think that they'll do it? I'm not sure. I imagine that Topps and Fanatics will make the shops turn these in. I don't know for sure. I have no idea about that, but I imagine that they will, because like that's obviously in card value, it's a lot of money now, given the store credit. And question number 2, what was question number 2 again? I forgot.
Jay.
How did I forget that?
If you thought that these cards, since they will be significantly more rare, since a lot of them have been turned in, if they'll have actual value long term as just the base cards.
Right. So the thing here is it's like the program ends on March 31st. So up until March 31st, I think we kind of know what the value is going to be. It's going to be no more than what the store credit would get to you, because that's obviously more valuable than what these cards are prior to the announcement. So I don't really see like the Judge refractors at this moment going for higher than 40, because that just wouldn't make sense. But after the program ends, I think it'd be interesting to see if there's kind of a market for people to collect past buyback cards that like weren't turned in, because I don't know if it's like necessarily what
is that a thing.
Well, we don't know yet because it's the first time it's ever happened.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So you're right. Is it a thing? I have no idea. Could it become a thing? Maybe. I don't think the base cards would really carry much value anyways, because it's just kind of like a base card anyways. But like maybe some of those X fractors or refractors, maybe there's maybe there's 5,000 out there in existence and 4,000 get turned in and now there's only 1,000. Maybe there are people to collect them and stuff like that. But it is going to take people wanting to collect them, and I personally would not, but maybe people do.
Yeah, I think I don't think we need to pretend that a base Aaron Judge has any long-term value. So, but the other stuff, I think Judge is like a real factor. Whatever, I have my own position on him, but people obviously really, really like him. And assuming he stays with the Yankees, I could imagine these cards having long-term value. If he goes to the Giants, we'll never hear from him again.
There's no doubt that the cards are going to be rarer than they are now, though, because thousands are getting turned in. So that's cool to see.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Jay, for the questions and for whoever asked them as well. Take 3 has to do with the new Bowman Chrome set. So last episode, we pointed out, hey, 2 big releases in November, Prism World Cup 2022, and then 2022 Bowman Chrome. baseball, and both have an international flavor on it because in Bowman Chrome, the second set that releases each year in the Bowman line, there's a lot of international prospects. And this year we got the very first ever Jackson Chourio auto along with his brother Jason Chourio. And our baseball guy Nate did some good research and compared the top 5 current baseball prospects, which is on the left of the screen right now. We put an image of both their Bowman Chrome or all of their Bowman Chrome base autos versus the top 5 2022 Bowman Chrome international prospects on the right. And we summed up all the values of their base autos. And now this is through November 30th, everyone, by the way. So anything that's happened in December, we don't know, or we didn't account for in this writing because it's a November report. But either way, the point remains is that the international autos that just released combined to $1,155. And this includes like 4 different people who I don't even think are in the top 50 or even top 100 versus the top 5 current prospects in baseball. Doesn't have to do with international or year that they released, sums up to 880. Now, the more that we get away from release, I'm sure that 1,155 combined value is going to drop closer to 880. But either way, Lou, I mean, we're looking right now, top 5 players are prospects in baseball. Only one pitcher involved in that too is like $350 less if you buy all 5 base right now than the Bowman Chrome International just released.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. We talk about it all the time. It's very, very difficult to me to rationalize these numbers. Jackson Chourio is obviously like a top 5 prospect. He's pretty securely a high-end guy. People are going to be following that guy for a long time.
And that carries 50% of the load, and it's more valuable than any of the top 5 prospects
100%
on the left, as he should be too.
But I don't even know who these other guys are. They're not. I'm on I'm looking at a Fangraphs top 100 list. I don't see any of them. Yeah, I'm looking at Roderick Arias now, and like on Fangraphs, I would say he doesn't even have a number, but he would be like the 145th ranked prospect for the overall in baseball. It's like, I don't know, man. But I say that Jeremy Pena became the World Series MVP, and no one cared who that guy was a year and a half ago. So like that's how it goes.
That is how it goes. It's kind of like make of it what you will. So Nate pointed out here, of the 5 international players listed, only 1 has played beyond single A, which is Jackson Chourio, and 3 have not made it to stateside baseball yet, which means that they haven't even played in the minor league system that they'll be playing in soon. It's risky. It's risky, no doubt about it. We'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, and on the other side of that coin, right? Like Volpe, I think, is a pretty high-end prospect. Obviously, play for the Yankees, top 5 guy, top 10 guy, depending on where you look. Corbin Carroll, I feel like, has been around for a decent amount of time now, so he's another one of those guys that kind of falls. Grayson Rodriguez is a pitcher, so people aren't necessarily going to be that excited to collect him. Francisco Alvarez is a catcher. People aren't going to be that excited to collect a catcher, so it changes in that way. And then one other thing I wanted to point out here, there's a lot of underrated prospects in baseball these days, like guys like Drew Jones, guys who you're not going to hear about until probably next season when they start to make some noise. So as always, there will always be the top 5 guys, whether the top 5 ranked prospects or new products where all those prices are going to be inflated and overpriced. You got to find these guys in the middle who are on the margins that are going to be making their way through systems, this winter into next spring. So just a lot of guys to keep an eye out in baseball. If you're going to do prospecting, make sure you're doing a lot of research and feeling good about the prospects that you're buying. Because of these 10 guys, I would wager that like 6 of them don't matter in 3 years.
I'd say maybe even 8.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at Volpe and Alvarez and Grayson, so like that's 3 off the bat. So
yeah. True. You
know what I'm saying? But
8's too far. All right, moving on. So we're going to skip take 4 for this. You can go read about the different category changes and the different card categories if you scroll down a little bit lower, the different sports and how they're changing and what might have affected it. The Luka 1 of 1 sale we have a little piece on. But feel free to read about that on 137pm.com. I want to go down to who's not. We'll finish off with who's not. If you scroll a little bit more, yes, Justin Jefferson, very hot. But we're going to finish with who's not, because this, I think, was a guy that Lou was a little excited about before the season. He's texted me quite a bit about this guy, Zach Wilson here. And, dude, he landed on the bench. He said some dumb things. What do you think about it?
It's really unfortunate. I think Zach is a very, very, all kidding aside, right? Like, let's open with this. I'm a Jets fan first and foremost through everything. I was obviously very excited about Zach. I was excited about the raw tools that Zach brings to the table. And I say all that to say he is one of the prime examples of what happens when people get too excited about a prospect that had very clear holes from the very, very beginning. Zach is a guy who played at a smaller college. He missed time, and his team was arguably better when he wasn't playing. And since he's been in the league, there's been a lot of very obvious holes that you can hide behind as a fan or even hide behind as a player. Like they're trying to get better at this, or trying to get better at that. Once I now have a sample size of 2 Mike White games, it's very obvious that they were just trying to protect Zach for the last few weeks, and really since he's been playing overall. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to own this Zach Wilson L, and I'm going to move on.
Do you think that he's going to be involved in the Jets' future?
I think there's an opportunity that in 2023 he competes for the starting job with a veteran, but for 2022 it's over.
Is that veteran Mike White or someone else that gets brought in?
It could be Mike White. It could be Jimmy G. It could be Jared Goff. Like, there's a lot of guys it could be.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm just saying it's possible.
I mean, Brett Favre went to the Jets, and I never thought that would happen. So,
do you think Rodgers is staying?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think he's
just such a nutcase. That's why it's awesome.
Yeah, he is. I mean, if he stays, he gets $58 million. I mean,
yeah,
we'll see. I don't know. I really want to watch Jordan Love, so I really hope. I never cheer for like my team to lose, but getting mathematically eliminated from the playoffs would allow Love to start the rest of the year and really let us figure out what we have and point us in one way or another. If we trade Love, if we trade Rodgers, if we get rid of them both and draft someone new because we have a top 15 pick most likely. I don't know. We'll see what it is. There's a lot of interesting times ahead for Packers fans. I'll say that much.
But yeah, what do you think about the whole Zach thing? I mean, it's just a tip. It's for a non-invested person. It's your typical example of a quarterback who doesn't pan out and everyone overinvested in, right?
Yeah, I'm not invested emotionally, dollar-wise, anyway into Zach Wilson or even the 2021 draft class. And this is not only Wilson, but the rest of the draft class, which heads up December market report. We'll have a lot of different talk about that.
Yeah, we're gonna really get into it.
Yeah, what Lou pointed out with like, hey, over-investing in a guy that we really don't know what they can do. And it's a good example for people to keep in mind, like, especially cards that are just getting graded because these sets didn't release that long ago, all the 2021 sets, even though we're towards the end of 2022. Big drops have happened with Wilson and a lot of the other 2021 QBs, down 73% as Prism Silver. And that's just in 1 month. That's not in the last like 6 months. That's just in 1 month, which is a tough scene for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 215 is too high for that card. And in, March, April, that card will be probably below $150 at least.
So the 215 drop, it's at like $90 right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, got it.
Yeah, 215 drop from the 300 it was at a month ago.
Yeah.
Now it's under 100.
I still think that's too high. I'm just being honest. Like, he's not going to start.
Yep. We'll see what happens, but that's how we're going to wrap up this discussion, the December report. Other than if you scroll down really quick to looking ahead, we got the looking ahead, and as you can see there is the normal sports card shows worth checking out. There's different sports card releases before that to think about for December, and then also exciting news coming in the following month to the start of 2023. We will be having something new here to track on the SlabStox and Card Talk and 1:37 p.m. market report, which is going to have to do with the SlabStox 100 index, looking at the overall market changes and different cards in each category.
Oh, interesting.
It'll be fun. We'll have more information coming out that in the next report. But we've been spending a lot of time looking into it and really understanding what needs to go into it, talking to different very smart collectors about what they think about our first prototype, making some changes based off of that. So we'll have something to come out here pretty soon. I'm very excited. Lou will definitely be sharing that with you too in the near future.
Looking forward to it. All right, cool. That'll wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you made it this far, please like, please subscribe, please drop a comment. Anything you wanted to hear in this, anything you want to hear next month, other than the QB ratings, which we will definitely be getting into. And with that, Aaron, thank you as always. Thank you to the SlabStox team. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Courtney, in the background for all the work. And we will see everyone next time. Peace.
See ya.